MovieWeb.com.
In the film, it's written by Tennessee Williams, and I know it was written many, many years ago. So it was originally supposed to be directed by Eli Kazan and done in the 50s or 60s. So a long time coming. I'm wondering, how does it feel to finally be a part of that dream coming true? And also, were you at all nervous doing the words of Tennessee Williams?
Well, the loss of Teardrop Diamond is pretty much 60 years in the making. Tennessee Williams, he wrote it in the 1950s, and that was really at the height of his career, and originally intended to be directed by Elia Kazan and starring Julie Harris. But another project kind of got the green light for whatever reason, and because he's such a prolific writer, this was shelved, and he had lots of other projects happening. So I think after his passing, his estate was quite protective of him, and you know, any material that he had which was fully developed and yet unproduced, which this was. And so Jody Markell, the filmmaker, really lobbied for this for over 10 years to make this movie. And it's remarkable that I got to be a part of this. I mean, to originate a Tennessee Williams heroine is just not anything that I ever remotely thought would happen. And yeah, it's a big responsibility. I was a little nervous about it, but felt really guided by Jody and just the vision that she held for this piece. So, you know, here's the results, and, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm very, you know, I love Tennessee Williams, and it's classic Tennessee Williams, so I really enjoy it.
So it's a great thrill for you to be a part of it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Great. And then the character Fisher, she's a bit high-strung, and seems like she sort of is longing for a different world than the world that she's in. So I was wondering what sort of inspiration you were able to draw from your own life or from other sources to create the character.
Well, the character of Fisher Willow is a classic Tennessee Williams heroine, which is she's a little bit mad. You know, she's ahead of her time. She's living in provincial Southern society, but she went to school in Europe, and so kind of thinks, you know, this is ridiculous. You know, people like get with it. Like, you know, she's a pretty modern woman in this very like studied kind of stale environment, and that obviously causes a lot of conflict. It was really great for me to get to watch old or just performances that have been captured on film of Tennessee Williams. I mean, I'm very familiar with most of his writing, if you know, not all of his writing at this point. But to get to study, in particular, Vivien Leigh's interpretation of Blanche Dubois was really helpful for me, because I kind of thought of Fisher Willow as Blanche Dubois perhaps 15 years earlier, when she still had a chance, when she didn't have to choose her delusions and wasn't kind of like lost in her own insane version of reality. And you kind of see Fisher straddling this line the whole film. It's, you know, it's this period of time in her life that's going to define her. You know, is she going to live in a fantasy world, or is she going to face reality harshly, for you know, the harsh reality that she's living in, and it's kind of this very interesting sort of line that to play with.
Yeah, and she and Jamie have a very interesting relationship. They're obviously attracted towards each other, but sort of at odds throughout most of the film. And yet come together at the end. So I was wondering, what is that attraction that the two characters had for each other? What do you think that was?
Well, I played opposite Chris Evans, who is amazing, and he played this character Jimmy Dobine, who his character came from this history of wealth and prestige, but they lost it, and whereas my character is still quite wealthy, and the family's going through some personal hardships, but it's financially they're still very secure. And what she does is she kind of reaches out to him. She's really, she's crushing pretty badly on him, and she reaches out to him and dresses him up and brings him to these debutante parties, and to help her with her, like, you know, coming out in the South. And during the process of this, they fall in love. But it's a very tenuous relationship because they are from two different classes. And this having, taken place in the 1920s in the South, that was something that was a very big deal. And for these two kinds of people to be together would have kind of caused a little bit of a social stir. So yeah, that's kind of the background of the characters and what kind of creates their circumstances. And then obviously, a lot of this movie takes place during parties, and there's one party in particular where she loses a teardrop diamond earring, and everything just goes berserk. I mean, she ends up taking opium and killing somebody, and he runs off with someone else at one point, and it's very, very fun and very romantic and dangerous, and yeah, I mean,
Great.
Tennessee Williams.
Bryce Dallas Howard, Chris Evans, Ellen Burstyn, and Margaret in Tennessee Williams, The Loss of a Teardrop Diamond.
Fishy, you're shivering. You must be chilly.
People don't always shiver because they're chilly.